Congratulations on completing week one of consumer demand. In this week, we took a look at the process of economic modeling, that process where we take a very complex problem and simplify it down so that we can focus on maybe a particular concept or some economic problem that we're interested in. The first model that we took a look at was this model of consumer choice, where we want to consider how a consumer allocates their scarce resources across the goods and services in the marketplace. In order to do that, we needed to first come up with the budget constraint. And the budget constraint looks at the amount of money a consumer has, along with prices of the goods and services in the marketplace, and allows us to understand how those choices are limited, how those choices are constrained. Now, the problem with a budget constraint is it doesn't tell us which combination is best. It just tells us what combinations are possible. In order to think about what's best, that's where we introduce the concept of an indifference curve. The indifference curve is all of the combinations of the two goods that provide the same level of total utility. And so the consumer then is indifferent between all of the combinations of the two goods on the same indifference curve. When we combine the indifference curve with the budget constraint, we can now think about that optimal combination or that optimal bundle of the two goods. And that's going to be that point of tangency, the highest indifference curve that we can get to while still remaining within our budget constraint. What we saw is at that optimal choice, the marginal utility per dollar spent was the same across all of the products that we have. And if you think about it, that really has to be true, because if it wasn't, then what we could do is we could take $1 from one product and spend it on a different product that would leave our total expenditure the same, yet increase our total utility. The other thing that we saw is that that point of tangency also means that the slope of the indifference curve, which is the marginal rate of substitution, has to be equal to the slope of the budget constraint. Well, what we'll do next week is we'll leverage the work that we put into this model and think about the demand curve, which is really the relationship between price and the quantity that consumers will be willing and able to buy. We'll then use that idea to talk about what happens as market conditions change. These determinants of demand are things other than price that will influence how much consumers are willing and able to buy. And then lastly, that's going to lay the groundwork for an understanding of elasticity. Now thinking about not just the direction of a change, but the magnitude of a change. How much do consumers change their behavior when they face a price change, for example? I look forward to seeing you in week 2.